Power is lost long before money is gone. You can have an empty wallet and still walk like a man who cannot be bought. But the moment you tell yourself, "I'm broke," you do something worse than being poor. You place yourself below everyone who has something to give. That, more than empty pockets, is what Machiavelli would call dangerous. A prince can be without land for a season. A soldier can be without pay for a campaign. But a man who has surrendered his posture has surrendered his future. The real threat is not the number in your account. The real danger is the way you start speaking, moving, and asking when you think of yourself as a needy person. When you say, "I can't do anything right now. I don't have anything. I just need someone to help me," you train your mind to negotiate from the floor. Beggar language creates beggar outcomes. A bowed head invites a low offer. A prince without territory stays a prince if he keeps his head high and his plan hidden. A man with a car, an income, and no strategic pride can still be ruled like a servant if he approaches people like a petitioner. People see this faster than you believe. The world hunts for weakness. Employers, clients, and even family members read tiny signals. You answer every message instantly because you are afraid of missing out. You tell them your rent story, hoping they will understand. You over-explain why a payment is late. At that moment, the price of your time drops. In power dynamics, neediness is a smell. Once it is on you, people stop offering opportunities and start offering favors, and favors keep you small. You thought telling people your struggle would make them invest. Most of the time, it only tells them exactly how to control you. Machiavelli would tell you, "Rulers do not show hunger in front of those who feed them." Whoever knows your desperation will own your decisions. If your boss learns that you cannot afford to quit, he will add tasks without increasing your pay. If a woman discovers that you will never walk away, she will test how much attention and emotional labor you will provide for free. If friends know you are always available, they will spend your time like loose coins, not because they are evil, but because people expand into the space you surrender. When you advertise a need, you invite management to step in. So the real question is not, "Do I have money right now?" The real question is, am I acting like my survival depends on them? A prince in exile studies roots, builds quiet alliances, improves his skills, and waits for the opening. He says to himself, "This is a temporary low." A pauper with cash says, "I hope they keep me." One is rebuilding leverage, the other is begging to stay. That is why you must never think you are broke, not because of some naive positivity, but because the thought itself chains you to the lowest offer. You can be at zero and still protect your negotiation position. You can be at zero and still control what you reveal. You can be at zero and still decide, "I will not look desperate." That single choice keeps you from being ruled while you rebuild. Money fixes numbers. Power fixes treatment. And how you are treated decides whether the next door opens with respect or with humiliation. Say it to yourself until it becomes law. I am not a beggar. I am a ruler in a temporary low state. Keep that law, and even poverty will look like a strategy. Never let your need speak louder than your worth. Power today is not taken from you by force. It is invited in the moment you tell everyone where you are weak. You were told that vulnerability is the doorway to genuine connection. So you opened every door, social media, group chats, late-night calls, and you said, "I am struggling. I have nothing right now." But in political terms, the moment you broadcast your pressure points, you handed other people the map to rule you. Machiavelli would not call that honesty. He would call it disclosure without leverage. And disclosure without leverage always puts you at a disadvantage to the listener. Look at the culture around you. Everyone is performing their struggle. They think that if they speak about their stress, their debt, their loneliness, people will move closer. Sometimes people do move closer, but they do not always move closer with investment. They move closer with observation. They study you. They learn the exact amount you need, the actual deadline you are afraid of, and the same relationship you refuse to lose. Now they know what offer you cannot refuse. You thought you were building intimacy. You were actually handing them a list of buttons to press whenever they wanted you to comply. Honesty is not the same as exposure. In power dynamics, timing and audience matter. A ruler may tell his counselors about famine, but he does not walk into the public square and cry about it, because fear in the streets reduces his authority. You do the opposite. You post the famine of your life and expect authority to rise. It will not. The more you dramatize your lows, the more people will think of you as a person who lives in lows. That is the romantic lie that the world will meet you at your softest point and lift you. In reality, people categorize you. They put you in the needs help drawer, and they leave you there. Then comes the softer trap, dependence disguised as love. People say, "We are here for you. Just ask, rely on us." That sounds kind, and sometimes it is. But Machiavelli would remind you that dependence builds hierarchy. The one who can say no stands above the one who must keep asking. If your rent, your food, your transport, your education, even your emotional stability, all require someone else's yes, then your life is already being governed. You will edit your opinions to keep the help. You will keep the help by staying in bad jobs. You will tolerate disrespect to keep the help. You think you are loved, but really, you are maintained. Mercy is useful, but he says princes must give it on their own terms. You must receive it on your own terms too. If another person's mood, schedule, or approval can shut down your month, you are not in a relationship. You are in vassalage. And here is the quiet pain. The people helping you start to see you as someone who always needs help. They stop seeing what you could build because they are busy responding to what you lack. You become the ongoing project. And projects do not get promoted. Projects do not get trusted with power. This is how "I am broke" hardens into identity. At first, it is a situation. You are between jobs, building a business, paying off a heavy debt, but you repeat it, so others repeat it back to you. He is going through something. She is still trying to get on her feet. Labels are shortcuts. Once people place you in the low resource slot, they stop matching you with high resource chances. Why would they recommend you for a demanding role if all they ever hear is how overwhelmed you are? Why would a woman see you as a future when every time you talk, you tell her there is no present? People freeze you at the level you describe yourself. In the workplace, this shows up quickly. You share too much about your bills, so your manager knows you cannot leave. Now deadlines stretch, tasks pile up, and the raise is delayed because they know you will stay. In dating, you tell someone on the second call how badly you need a partner to help you breathe. Now they know you will accept inconsistent behavior because you hate the feeling of being alone. In the family, you keep calling the same relative for just a little help. And soon they talk about you like a permanent storm they have to prepare for. You become maintenance, not investment. Maintenance gets check-ins, advice, small loans, and temporary sympathy. Investment gets trust, responsibility, access to rooms, introductions, and loyalty. And the difference between the two is not always money. It is whether you present yourself as increasing or depleting. When every conversation with you is about shortage, people feel that being close to you will drain them. So they offer you comfort instead of opportunity. Comfort is cheaper. Opportunity is given to the person who looks like they will multiply it. This is why "never think you are broke" is not motivational fluff. It is a strategy to protect your future alliances. You do not let people think you are sinking, even if you are quietly repairing the ship. You show discipline, schedule, and small wins. You disclose selectively. You ask for strength, not for collapse. Because whoever knows your weakness owns your future terms. Hide the hole in the wall until you have the bricks. Guard your need, or it will become someone else's leverage. Weakness is not always an accident. Sometimes it is a costume. You say you have nothing, that life has cornered you, that you cannot move yet. But look closer. That story keeps people gentle with you. It keeps deadlines soft. It keeps judgment away. That is why it survives. Machiavelli would tell you that a man can disarm his enemies by showing himself frail, but if he keeps doing it, he will disarm himself too. You are not only suffering, you are also benefiting. And until you see the benefit, you will never drop the pose. There is a hidden payoff in being the one who has nothing. People do not push you as hard. They lower the bar. They say, "He's going through it." Your friends cover the bill. Your family excuses the late response. Even women will sometimes offer more warmth because they sense you are in a valley. You tell yourself this is just a season of hardship, but inside, part of you likes the softness. You like that you are not expected to compete with the men who are building. You want to be able to sit out of the race and still be called strong for enduring. That is power in reverse. You gain influence through weakness. But reversed power is fragile power. The moment you stop looking weak, the benefits end. But that move has a price. In politics, if a city declares itself weak, nearby powers feel free to rule it. In life, if you declare you are perpetually in repair, the people around you start to manage you. They decide what you can handle. They determine which opportunities you are ready for. They decide when you get invited. You think they are protecting you, but really, they are placing you on a lower shelf. You trained them to do it every time you said, "I can't yet." Why do you stay there? Because the arena is frightening. If you admit you are not actually broken, then you must perform. You must show results. You must ask for a higher price. You must risk hearing no. Many men prefer the safe ache of low ambition to the sharp pain of rejection. Machiavelli observed that men often choose safety over glory, because glory requires exposure. As long as you tell the world you are not ready, no one can measure you. As long as you say, "When I get money, when I get time, when I get support," you are protected from comparison. No one can tell you failed because you never played. But the arena is where resources actually flow. Jobs, alliances, and even respect move toward the visible fighters, not the permanent recoverers. By staying in the "I can't yet" zone, you protect your pride, but you lose your position. You watch other men, not more intelligent than you, step in and take what could have been yours. Then you comfort yourself with, "They had more than me." That might be true, but it is also convenient. It keeps you innocent. It says, "I lost because I lacked," not "I lost because I refused to enter." There is something more profound than convenience, though. Your shadow loves low leverage. The parts of you that were controlled, dismissed, or humiliated when you were younger, remember that it was safer to be small. Maybe you grew up in a house where asking for more brought anger. Every time you took initiative, someone laughed, so you learned to wait. Now, as an adult, you recreate the same structure. You pick relationships where you depend. You prefer jobs that require reporting. You tell financial stories that place you in a lower position. It feels unfair, but it also feels familiar, and the psyche often chooses familiar over free. Familiar suffering feels safer than unfamiliar power. To your shadow, dependence is predictable. Someone else leads, you follow. Someone else decides, you accept. Someone else pays, you thank. You do not have to plan like a prince. You only have to survive like a subject. That is why you think broke, even when you are not at zero. You keep telling people about your lack because it anchors you in a role you already know how to play. It lets you avoid the anxiety of being fully responsible. Machiavelli would call that self-weakening. A ruler who keeps his army underfed so they do not rebel might enjoy short-term safety, but he becomes an easy target for outsiders. You are doing the same thing to your life. You underfeed your ambition, so it will not challenge you. You underfund your own projects, so they stay in your control. You underrate your skills so that no one will demand performance. You feel safe, but you are also constantly exposed. Any stronger person, any stricter boss, any charming partner can step in and dominate because you have been practicing submission. When you start acting like a man who will be measured, everything tightens: your speech, your friends, your spending, your time online. You stop telling people every deficit and start telling yourself every demand. That shift threatens the wound because the wound cannot hide anymore, but it is also the moment you become unmanageable. People can still help you, but they can no longer define you. This is why the thought, "I have nothing," must be examined like a suspect. Is it true right now, or is it an old script speaking? Are you truly without options, or have you filtered out every option that would require you to be seen? Are you actually poor, or are you repeating a childhood feeling of not being provided for? Shadows are clever. They speak in today's language: rent, bills, no support, but they are serving yesterday's wound. To break it, you do not need to shout that you are rich. You need to stop rewarding yourself for staying weak. Stop telling the story that wins you pity but loses you territory. Stop using hardship as an excuse to avoid the arena. Tell yourself instead, "I am not fragile. I am under construction, and construction sites are noisy." That permission to be visibly building will feel harsher than being quietly broken, but it will pull you into motion. And motion, not maintenance, is what restores power. Stop wearing weakness when strength is finally within reach. A man collapses inside, not when he has nothing, but when he keeps telling himself he is nothing. The daily declaration, "I'm broke," does more than describe a season. It becomes a law you obey. And once you obey that law, you begin to choose like a man without rank. You no longer ask, "What is worthy of me?" You only ask, "What will keep me alive today?" Machiavelli warned that necessity is the hardest master. When a prince is pressed by hunger, debt, or enemies, he signs treaties that humiliate him. You have been doing the same thing in silence. It starts simply. You need money, so you accept the first offer. The pay is low, the treatment is lower, but necessity makes it look reasonable. Then another offer shows up, still low, still urgent, and you take it too, because your identity is now the person who needs. After a few cycles, low-status roles no longer feel offensive. They feel normal. You stop negotiating. You stop countering. You tell to yourself, "I should be grateful." But gratitude, in this case, is submission to a poor valuation. You are not thanking them. You are telling yourself to stay small so you do not feel the shame of wanting more. This is precisely how princes lose power. A ruler surrounded by stronger states smiles, bows, and promises things he cannot afford to promise to avoid immediate pain. He knows it injures his prestige, but he does it anyway, because he fears today more than he fears a weak tomorrow. You do this when you agree to work extra for free, when you let a client delay payment, when you take disrespect from an employer because "I need this job right now." Every one of those agreements is a small, humiliating treaty. Sign enough of them, and you start believing the lies written in them, that your time is cheap, that your voice is optional, that your position is replaceable. Then the poison spreads into how you give access to yourself. Broke thinking makes you believe approval is oxygen. Because you are afraid of losing opportunities, you overshare. You tell people your plans before they are ready. You explain your prices instead of stating them. You apologize for being busy. You send long messages to justify your existence. In dating, you respond instantly. You reveal your struggles too soon. You tolerate inconsistency because you don't want to lose someone you think is above you. In business, you accept calls at odd hours, treat clients like staff, and accept scope creep. In a family, you let relatives dictate your schedule because you owe them. All of this is because somewhere in you, the thought sits, I can't afford to lose anyone, but you can. In fact, you must. Because every time you sell access too early, you teach the other person that your boundary is negotiable. That is why they keep pushing. They sensed your need. They sensed the fear behind your smile. And in power relations, fear is permission. You did not lose dignity because people are cruel. You lost it because you placed your survival in their hands. Machiavelli would tell you that a man must strive to make others depend on him, not the reverse. When you depend, you must flatter. When you trust, you must forgive too much. When you depend, you must stay even when the terms have rotted. Living like this creates a special kind of anger. You know you are capable of more. You see other people moving with calm and pride, and you feel heat in your chest. You start blaming the rich, the system, women, bosses, God, luck, anyone who looks like they have what you don't. Anger is understandable, but Machiavelli would call it useless if it does not turn into a strategy. Rage without a plan is noise. It burns you, not them. You sit with friends and complain about how unfair everything is, but after the words fade, nothing changes, because you have not changed the terms of your own availability. Resentment also turns inward. You begin to despise yourself for staying in places beneath you. You look at the messages you sent and wish you had stayed silent. You replay the moment you laughed at an insult to keep the room warm. You remember giving someone your time when they hadn't earned it. That self-contempt is heavy because it proves you are not a victim of pure circumstance. You were a participant. You signed the treaties. You lowered the standards. You convinced yourself that scarcity meant you had to be endlessly agreeable. The collapse is emotional because it is also moral. You feel you betrayed your own idea of yourself. This is the Machiavellian fall. When necessity rules you, others rule you. As long as everything in your life is framed as, I have to, you will keep accepting terms that shrink you. The way out is not loud defiance. It is cold recalibration. You start by refusing to describe yourself with poverty words. You remove urgency from your tone. You stop explaining your every move. You take fewer, better engagements. You let slow money come if it means keeping your self-respect. You choose status over speed because status multiplies future offers, while speed only feeds today. You will still have needs, but you will not let needs speak first. You will speak first with price, with pace, with posture. That is how you gather your identity back from the pieces it was scattered into. You are not the man who begs to be kept. You are the man who decides where his energy lands. Never let hunger write the terms of your life. The world did not fail to love you. It simply refused to fund weakness. What you experienced wasn't hatred, and it wasn't always unfair. It was a calculation. People looked at you, listened to how you spoke about yourself, measured your momentum, and decided what level of resource you were worthy of. That is how rulers act. That is how families act. That is how women act. It is not cruelty, it is allocation. Machiavelli would say, allies are more easily found when you are already rising. When you look finished, disciplined, and moving, people attach to you because joining you benefits them. When you look like you are drowning, they send comfort, not boats. Comfort is cheap. Opportunity is expensive. You thought they should have helped, but that belief comes from a romantic vision of human nature, not a political one. So let's kill that belief. No, they were not obligated to rescue you just because you were sincere. No, they were not disloyal because they didn't fund your dream at its roughest stage. Most people are not patrons. They are pragmatists. They want to bet on the horse that looks like it will finish. You might say, "But I was loyal to them when they were up." That was noble, but in power terms, it was also naive. You confused closeness with a strategic alliance. A real coalition is built on mutual advantage. If, in that moment, you could not offer advantage, not even the appearance of future advantage, they did what states do. They preserved their resources. This is why you must stop romanticizing your own sacrifice. You told yourself, "They see how much I am enduring, they will reward me." That is not governance, that is fantasy. Power does not automatically reward suffering, it rewards results. A prince does not keep a general because the general tried hard. He keeps him because the general won. You stayed loyal to jobs that underpaid you, to people who used your time, to relationships where you were always the fixer, and you assumed your perseverance would be noticed and crowned. Instead, you were catalogued as someone who will always continue without reward. You trained them to underpay you. You taught them that you don't need elevation to keep serving. The reframe is this: your life was not saying, "You are unlovable." It was saying, "You are not yet leverageable." That is very different, and it is fixable. You must begin to see your current lack not as a verdict, but as a stage. A prince in a hostile land does not call himself a beggar. He calls it temporary exile. He does not go around telling every villager he is desperate. He holds his name, his bearing, his story, until he can return with force. You can do the same. You can say, "I am not broke, I am early." Early means you are building proof. Early means your vision is ahead of your resources. Early means you are not going to market yourself as a drowning man, because drowning men get pity, not partnership. When you wear "I am early" instead of "I am broke," your tone changes. You stop pleading and start pacing. You stop telling people everything and start showing them progress. You accept that some people will not invest until you are further along, and instead of resenting them, you outgrow the need for them. That is the cold freedom Machiavelli wanted for rulers, to be able to choose allies, not beg for them. Your task now is not to demand love for your wounds. It is to become so coherent, so disciplined, so visibly ascending that investment makes sense. I am not broke, I am building toward my price. Power respects the image of strength, even before it measures the substance behind it. That is why you must decide, right now, that your current bank balance will not be allowed to speak louder than your posture. Machiavelli cared about how a prince looked to his people, to rival courts, and to possible allies. He knew most men cannot see the whole truth, so they judge by the surface. You can use the same law. You do not need to be overflowing with money to move like a man of means. You need a disciplined appearance, not a display. You need to look governed. Rule of appearances. It is not necessary to possess every virtue, only to seem to have them. Translate that to your situation. You do not need luxury. You need order. Clean is wealth. Punctuality is wealth. Speaking calmly is wealth. Wearing what you have with care is wealth. Answering without nervous laughter is wealth. A man who wanders in late, flustered, and oversharing about his financial problems signals that his life is in disarray. People do not trust disordered lives with high-value things. But a man who arrives on time, focused, well-kept, even if his pockets are light, communicates that he is already ruling something inside. That signal alone raises your political value. So you cut desperation from your face. You stop laughing too hard to please. You stop accepting every invitation. You choose what you attend, so people feel you have other options. You answer messages with clarity, not anxiety. You say, "This time works," not "Anytime, I'm free all day." The first sounds like a man whose time has value. The second sounds like a man who needs company or cash. In commerce, in dating, in friendships, the signal is the same. Whoever looks over-available looks underpriced. Appearance, when disciplined, protects you while you rebuild. But appearance alone is not enough. You must control what you reveal. Too many men keep confessing their delays, their debts, their doubts, thinking it makes them human. It does make them human and easily managed. Princes in vulnerable seasons do not announce it to everyone in the court. They narrow their circle. They share full realities only with those who must know to help execute the plan. You must do the same. Stop telling co-workers you are behind on rent. Stop telling a new woman you are trying to recover financially. Stop telling every relative the exact size of your problem. The more detail you hand out, the more angles people have to press you. Strategic opacity is not lying, it is sequencing. You reveal the part of the truth that maintains respect. You can say, "I'm working on a few things," instead of, "I have nothing coming in." You can say, "I'll confirm tomorrow," instead of, "I don't have fare right now." You can say, "That timeline doesn't work for me," instead of, "I need the money sooner." This way, you stay at the table as a peer, not as a petitioner. The fewer people who know about where you are fragile, the harder it is for them to squeeze you on those points. Concealment protects negotiation. Then comes leverage. Leverage is created when you are both scarce and valuable. Many men are scarce but useless. They are absent, but they bring nothing, so no one chases them. Other men are helpful but not scarce. They are talented but always available, so no one pays them fairly. You are going to build both. Even with little money, you can develop competence. You can learn a skill, refine your communication, create a body, and produce work on schedule. Competence makes you worth something. Then you place that competence inside boundaries. Add emotional scarcity too. Do not let everyone have access to your encouragement, your attention, and your listening ear whenever they want. When your emotional presence is rare, people experience it as value. When it is constant, they experience it as background. You are training others to pay, in money or in respect, for what you offer. That is how you turn inner power into outer resources, without having to shout that you deserve more. This is not arrogance. This is valuation. When people feel they must wait for you, they assume you are wanted elsewhere. When they assume you are wanted elsewhere, they raise their offer to secure you. That is how you make money flow on better terms without begging for it. You stop being the person who will take any rate, any time, any disrespect. You become the person whose presence improves the room and whose absence is felt, so the room pays to make sure you appear. Even if you are still tightening your budget privately, you move like a man who cannot be bought cheaply. Machiavelli would tell you, "Fortune favors the bold, but she respects the prepared." You are preparing by shaping perception before wealth arrives. You are making sure that when resources do come, they land on a man who already carries himself like a small state, not like a permanent subject. Meet your shadow here, the part of you that wants to tell everyone you're struggling, the part of you that wants to say yes to everything, the part of you that still fears losing people. Tell it no. Rule it. You can be honest with yourself about today's limits and still refuse to market those limits to the world. Choose your battles too. You do not chase every client, every woman, every argument. Selective engagement signals power. When you walk away from cheap offers, people learn your flaw. When you walk away from chaotic people, they know you are not lonely. Selection is silent proof of value. From now on, your mantra is simple. I never think I am broke, because today's cash does not set my price. My discipline, my secrecy, and my competence set it. Move like that, and you will force the world to negotiate with you, not over you. Guard your image, guard your secrets, guard your time. That is how a poor man enters as a prince. Power is not a gift for the loudest. It is a reward for the most governed. You can start with almost nothing and still become dangerous if you refuse to speak like a man who has nothing. The mistake you made before was advertising a lack, thinking people would rush in to save you. But in politics, the more you declare weakness, the more people assume you should be managed, not partnered. Peace begins the day you close your mouth about what is missing and open your eyes to what can be ordered. So you govern yourself first. That is the test every ruler must pass. If you can keep your room, your routine, your money, and your tongue under control while resources are thin, you prove you are fit to lead when resources increase. Anyone can be organized with abundance. Only a prince in training can be organized in scarcity. You get up on time. You speak without panic. You do not explain delays to everyone. You hold your back straight, even when no one is watching. Dignity in smallness is rehearsal for authority in expansion. Then you build quiet alliances. You do not beg your way into circles. You serve your way in. Even with little, you can study someone's work, add value, deliver a clean product, and show up prepared. Influential people remember reliability more than dramatic stories of struggle. You make deposits of trust everywhere you go. At work, in your family, in your craft. You do not make noise, you create memories. Later, when you are stronger, those quiet links become open doors, and you do not have to lose your respect to get them. Now, you write your creed. I am not broke, I am in formation. That sentence frees you from shame and ties you to discipline. Information means this season is scaffolding, not a verdict. It means you are assembling skill, network, and posture in the correct order. It means you do not have to flaunt or defend yourself online, because you know what you are building. You walk like a ruler with a small treasury, not like a beggar with big feelings. You choose calm over chaos, schedule over mood, long-term allies over short-term applause. This is the hopeful part. Men who carry themselves like this almost always rise, not because of magic, but because the world trusts what looks already ruled. When you are discreet, ordered, and valuable, people want to invest in you, recommend you, and attach to you. You stopped leaking need, so you stopped repelling opportunity. You became still, and stillness made you legible. And understand this clearly. Peace is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of control. You may still have bills, you may still have delays, you may still have to start from low-paying work, but none of that has to touch your posture. Your mind can be seated even if your circumstances are standing in the rain. That contrast is what makes people say, "He will get there." It is also what protects your spirit from the bitterness that breaks most men in long building seasons. You are not building to impress strangers. You are building so that when resources arrive, they land on a stable court, not a noisy marketplace. Keep your circle tight, your language simple, and your efforts daily. Every quiet, ordered day is another brick in the fortress that will later look like it appeared overnight. So you bless the slowness, because slowness is teaching you to rule without applause. You bless the small payments, because they teach you to budget before abundance. You bless the hidden work, because it teaches you to move without vanity. When expansion comes, you will not panic or boast. you will scale the order you already live in. I am not broke. I am being prepared.